All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Freddyisreadysports. This is episode 6, I believe. I think it's episode 6. Could be wrong. Could be episode 5. No, it's episode 6 for sure. Episode 6. Um, we got a lot to talk about today. It's been a crazy couple of days in terms of boxing with a lot of new additions, new fights falling through and all. But it was a good weekend. I hope you guys all had a good weekend. There was a good weekend. Good couple fights with some UFC fights, some boxing fights. Then we're gonna preview some boxing fights for the weekend, which are arguably the best card of all time. And then we're gonna preview a UFC fight. We're also gonna talk about the NBA All-Star game that just happened recently and my thoughts on it. There's some MLB topics that I wanted to get into, which we'll for sure get into, and I'll be happy to throw my thoughts in there and all, you know. But I'll let you guys know exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to go with some boxing news, like I mentioned, the Keyshawn Davis, and we're going to go over the Keyshawn versus the Dennis Berinchyk fight, as well as the February 22nd Carver Better Even Be Bold. We're going to preview that one. We're gonna look over the Rodriguez and Cannonier fight, quick brief one. We're going to talk about the Cejudo and the Song Dong fight, the NBA All-Star game, and then MLB. Okay. So let's get into the boxing right away. Big event, which with Keyshawn Davis and Dennis Berinchyk. This was pretty bad. I want to say bad fight, but this was an ass whooping from the beginning, and it wasn't really gonna change him, in my opinion. I don't think Berinchyk had any weapons to really worry or cause any second thoughts for Keyshawn. I think Keyshawn went in there comfortably and got really comfortable right from the rip. Keyshawn did win by knockout in the 4th round with a body shot. And he was taking the bar the whole time, you know. And the one thing that I really looked into was Keyshawn is a sniper. This man loves to snipe from a distance. But if you get in on him, his body work is absolutely dismantling. He just dismantles you with that body. And he kind of panics throws, in a sense, where they get close to him. If you guys saw a lot at the beginning, Keyshawn and Dennis were just clinching. And then as the fight started going on in the first few rounds, you notice Keyshawn really started to throw as soon as Dennis would try to initiate the clinch. And when I looked at it, it almost seemed as Keyshawn desperately tried to land punches in the clinch. And that's what happened in the knockout. When you look at the knockout, they're kind of coming together, and he just rips a boom right down and then a boom left, and that sits him down and doesn't get back up. But overall, I mean, there was a couple things I noticed. Keyshawn is huge for the weight class. I mean, he is absolutely huge. I know he talked about moving up to 140, but he wants to face Andy Cruz first. But I don't know how Berinchyk became champion. I know he fought Navarrete, who's the guy from 130 moving up, but it was like this guy was not even on world championship level. I mean, Keyshawn made him look like he was a rookie. And I mean, both guys are silver medalists in the Olympics, you know? Another thing was Berinchyk seemed like he wanted to just survive at first. He was just, like I mentioned, clinching. And the punches he were throwing, it almost seemed like Keyshawn didn't even give a rip what was coming towards him. Keyshawn was just either jabbing it, moving, or using his feet to get in and out. And Keyshawn's a lot bigger. So Keyshawn's steps were twice as the size of Berinchyk. And I know they had him probably like a 3 or 4 inch difference. But no. Berinchyk fought a lot more straight up, and Keyshawn was more a wide stance, and Keyshawn still towered over him by a good amount. And then Keyshawn's back is just absolutely ripped. And this was good for Keyshawn, because when you look at it, Keyshawn becoming the champion, people are going to be forced to fight him, unless people are going to avoid him and they're going to move up, move down, or whatever. But Keyshawn became the WBA champion. And there's 3 guys he's going to fight, in my opinion, that are 3 of the big name fights. There's Tank, Shakur, and Teofimo. Right off the rip, Tank, I don't think will fight him. I don't think Tank will make a fight happen with him. I think Tank will avoid him or fight somebody else. Shakur, they're buddies. They're not going to fight. And then this is where it gets to my point is with Teofimo. Teofimo is a guy who they have a lot of animosity in between each other. They really don't like each other. There is a lot of tension building as soon when they see each other. I know they had a press conference where Keyshawn was like, "Hey, why'd you talk bad about me?" And then Teofimo was like, "Oh, whatever." And then they were cool. But then when they fought, Teofimo started like cussing him out, this and this. And Teofimo is a good guy. He's a good boxer. I think he has the best chance to beat all these boxers. And by all the boxers, I mean Tank, I mean Ryan Garcia, I mean Devin Haney, and I mean Shakur. And you could throw in Keyshawn. The reason I think so is because Teofimo can box with all these guys. I think he has the boxing ability, but he also has the power. And that's one thing that I noticed is when you look at Tank and Ryan, these are both guys. Well, Tank, if you're gonna look for power and boxing ability, you look at Tank, right? But Tank doesn't have the reach. Tank doesn't have the experience that a lot of that Teofimo does. Teofimo's fought a lot of these guys. When you look at Keyshawn has a Josh Taylor type approach, style. And Teofimo dismantled him. Teofimo whooped Josh Taylor. So I would give Teofimo the upper hand on Keyshawn, right? And then when you look at Shakur, I'll get Shakur after. Ryan Garcia, I think Teofimo would just kill him in the inside and probably knock him out, to be honest. I think Teofimo is too good against a guy like Ryan, who's going to be just straight up tall and throw these big hugs. Teofimo is really good on the defensive part. He knows how to get in and out, explosive. And you have Devin Haney. So Devin Haney is a guy who can match him with size because Teofimo is a big boy, but Haney can match him with size. Haney has the background of the amateur background, the world championship background. Haney has the experience. I think out of all these guys, Haney probably has the best record. I mean, Haney's fought Lomachenko, Linares. He's fought Joseph Diaz. He's fought, top of my head, fought Regis Prograis. And those are four names that are... and he fought... Oh, yeah, I already said Lomachenko. But those are four names that are really good and arguably Hall of Fame caliber. So when you look at that and you look at Teofimo's resume, Teofimo versus Haney, Teofimo's fought Loma. He's fought Taylor. He's fought Comey. And I would say pretty much, and then he fought that other guy, I forgot his name, the one that like boxed him or whatnot. And then Sander Martin or whatnot. So Teo's also fought good boxers, but he's really struggled with the good boxers. That's where I think Haney would give him issues, but ultimately I think Teofimo is just too explosive for a guy like Haney. I think Haney will pretty much crumble. I think he'll get caught, put him out, and Teofimo will be victorious in that fight. But it all depends on which Teofimo shows up. Teofimo's had issues with showing up, and he fights like he's never fought before, but then he fights like he's the greatest fighter of all time, right? So then you go to Shakur. Shakur is the interesting one because Shakur doesn't have a good resume either. Shakur's fought Edwin Diaz. He's fought Oscar Valdez, who was at a lower weight class. And that's pretty much all the good... Oh, and he's fought him. I think his name was Washington, or the British guy. I forgot his name. Pardon me. I don't know. We're not gonna mess with his name or anything, but I'll look him up. So that's his resume. But Shakur, without a doubt, has the best boxing ability out of all the guys. But you have to look at it. This guy runs a lot, not really stopping anybody. Shakur's as he's moved up to 135, it almost seemed like he started fearing the power that was coming back to him. And I mean, if he was at 130, he was whooping Valdez, he was whooping all these guys, right? And Shakur was also another big boy. Shakur was really big. I think Teofimo was the shortest behind Tank. I mean, prior to Tank, I believe so. So when you look at that perspective, the Shakur fight and Teofimo fight would be the best one. But that's why I circling back to the Keyshawn and Teofimo, they have a lot of animosity in between each other. And Teofimo's at 140, mind you. Keyshawn just became champion at 135. So that Keyshawn moving up, which he mentioned he does want to move up, makes the fight interesting. It makes it appropriate to talk about. You won't sound crazy mentioning that fight. But that's another issue with boxing is all these guys should have fought each other by now, but they don't want to fight each other. So that's what I think is next for Keyshawn. Realistically, I think it's going to be Teofimo. in terms of big fight. Obviously, you could pick up a mandatory and whoop him or whatnot. But I think the next big fight will be Teofimo. That's the one I would want and I would pay for actually. Um, yeah, for Baron I don't know what's gonna happen to Baron. I mean, I think he's probably gonna disappear for a while or just fight some random guys or fight somebody that wants to get his name on the record, you know. Um, so moving on from that, I wanted to talk about the Better Beef card, the Better Beef and Bivol card. It's gonna be a great card. This is gonna be a great card. I mean, you got Joshua Batsi, you got Callum Smith, Jing Zhang, Jiling, Age Kabayel versus Abel Caballel. You got Virgil Ortiz versus Idrar Matramov. You got Carlos Adames versus Kamza Shiraz. You got Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Sheffield, which turns out he pulled out. He's going to be fighting a guy named Josh Padley. So he's going to be fighting a guy named Josh Padley who stepped up 14-0, or no, 15-0, 4 knockouts. And then you have Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, and then the main event, Arthur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol. So we're gonna go in order. We'll start off with Joshua Boatsi and Callum Smith. This is a bit of an interesting fight. The reason I think this is interesting is this fight means a lot for Callum Smith in terms of staying at the top. With this fight, beating a guy like Boatsi, who's ranked top 10 in almost all the organizations, I believe top 5 in some of them, you really elevate your status, and you almost can say, I remain at the top for a title shot. I could still be here with a title shot. But if you lose, you've lost to Better Beef, you lost to Bossy, Canelo. You've been losing, and it almost doesn't make you. You're either gonna become a guy that people are gonna want to put on the record, or just a guy that's gonna have to fight, right? And for Boatsy, this means a lot because he's a high-ranked light heavyweight, and he needs a big name on his resume. He needs a guy with the name of Callum Smith, so he can make a case for fighting a guy like Bivol, Better Beef, or possibly even getting a fight with Benavides, which I think Benavides will fight the winner of the main event. Morel, who I think that's probably the fight to make it with for Morel, is make him fight a top light heavyweight, or there's Yarde, but I don't think Yarde is gonna fight realistically. And when I looked at the film a little bit, I looked at Boatsy and I know how Callum Smith fights, good counter puncher, long guy, has power on the left hand. I looked at it and I looked to myself and I thought Boatsy has tools. I think Boatsy's gonna beat him. I think Boatsy's a fresher guy, a guy who hasn't taken as much wear and tear as a guy like Callum Smith. And then Boatsy has a really good body attack. I noticed in his last fight, he had a really good body attack and really wore his opponent down. Callum Smith's been kind of susceptible to the body. And when you look at that, you have to think to yourself, can Callum Smith kind of get to him early and put Boatsy out, or put Boatsy on the back foot? Or is Boatsy just going to cruise through and make it a good competitive fight, but ultimately get his hand raised? And that's what I think is going to happen. I actually have Boatsy by unanimous decision. I think he's going to wear him down, wear the body, if anything, possibly stop Callum Smith, especially because Smith has just gotten stopped by Better Beef. But ultimately, I think he's going to win by unanimous decision. I think he'll win around 8-4, 7-5, or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So after that, we have Jiang versus Age Caballel. And this is going to be an interesting fight. This is going to be fireworks. Everybody knows Zhang. Big heavyweight, crazy power southpaw, a guy who just knocked out Deontay Wilder. He fought Joseph Parker. He knocked out some. Who did he knock out? I can't remember exactly who he knocked out, but he's a big puncher who everybody knows about, and this guy loves to bang. Loves to bang, right? And a lot of people don't really know of Age Caballel. So Age Caballel is a heavyweight, and this guy moves like a really good heavyweight. He has his big victory was over Frank Sanchez. He stopped him. And what Caballel has nasty combinations and offensive, and the output the output he has offensively is second to none. I mean, this guy really throws everything by his combinations. And they're not just 1-2s, they're 1-2-3s, and then he throws them with uppercuts. He throws Caballel is a really complete heavyweight, offensive heavyweight. The thing is, can he stay out of the danger zone, which is anywhere coming in on Zhang or staying out in the long range? Zhang could just pepper you, because Zhang's a big guy, 6'6", I believe. So that's going to be interesting. And The main difference for me, I honestly think, is going to be the output. I think Gabriel is gonna outwork Zhang. I think the speed differential is gonna be too much for Zhang. Do I see him getting knocked out? I don't think so. I think Gabriel is gonna cruise to a unanimous decision. That's my bet. I'm gonna go with Gabriel unanimous decision. Zhang couldn't stop him. I think there's a possibility Zhang can stop anybody, but ultimately Gabriel is the fresher guy. I think he's the one that's gonna come in there, throw some combination, blah 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 blah. And ultimately, Zhang will tire out by like the eighth, ninth round. And I think Gabriel will just apply the pressure and whatnot. After that, we have a great fight, which in my opinion might be fight of the night. And that's Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov. And this is a banger of a fight. So this is a battle of two fighters who are trying to put a stamp on the junior middleweight division. Virgil is going into this fight with a lot to prove. Virgil was at 147, couldn't even make the weight or whatnot. And he had a shaky performance in his last fight with Sergey Bohachuk. And Bohachuk's not a slouchy fighter. That guy's legit. But when you get dropped twice, you're supposed to be this top super junior middleweight, it's gonna carry into your next fight. There's gonna be questions, right? And the real question is, can he bounce back against a great offensive fighter like Madrimov, who Madrimov is known for his fight against Triple G. I mean, not Triple G, I'm sorry, Terrence Crawford. And that's the interesting one because he got a lot of fame from the fight. He lost, but he got a lot of fame. But in my opinion, Madrimov needs this fight to get back into the title picture because at this point, you're just getting famous because you lost to Crawford and you made it a close fight, right? And there's nothing bad with that. But when you look at other guys trying to fight for the title, you get Virgil Ortiz, who if he beats you, he's propelled to stardom. Virgil Ortiz is propelled to fight for any of the belts he wants, including Crawford's, but Crawford won't. He's probably going to vacate because he's going to fight Canelo or whatnot. But that'll be, there's a lot at stake for both these fighters. And when you look at Virgil, I think Virgil is the perfect fighter for a guy like Israel Madrimov. And the reason I say this, Madrimov is a guy who likes to push back. He likes to hop back in and out, in and out, in and out. And I know you're thinking, that the footwork might give a lot of issues to Virgil, which is true. I think that it could be at first. But a guy like Virgil who throws fast combinations with the power that he carries in his hands, it's almost like he just needs to connect once and he's gonna put you out. And a guy like Madrimov, who I think Virgil's body attack could really slow Madrimov down. That's what I think the game plan's gonna be, is to slow his movement down, so you could time the counters up the middle when Madrimov lunges forward or throws that leaps forward. But realistically, Virgil, to win this fight, he's going to need to keep this fight in the mid-range. The mid-range is going to be money for Virgil. If you can't keep Madrimov in the mid-range, you're going to lose. The reason why is Madrimov is such a good boxer. He is this European boxer who can go in and out. He has a Bivol-type style. And, if anybody knows here, Merab Dvalishvili from the UFC, who hops a lot, that's exactly who Madrimov is. Hops, and boom, boom, boom. He's very wide guard. He has a very wide stance. So he can fight on the outside because he can just escape. If you get on the mid-range as Virgil with the power he holds can really hurt his body. And if Madrimov wide base, mind you, when you're wide base, you can't escape as much as you want because you're going to have to close your feet together and then move back. But that doesn't take too much time. Opposed to if your feet are close together, it's just a small step and then you could just lunge back a lot, right? And if he gets in the mid-range with Virgil, I think Virgil's will catch him in between a combination or catch him as he's trying to escape the pocket. So ultimately, I do see Virgil winning, and I see him stopping Israel Madrimov in the 7th to 10th round. That's why my prediction is. I think Virgil will stop Madrimov, and I think he'll propel himself to get a big title shot with one of the contenders, whether it's Fundura or whatnot. So the next fight is Carlos Adames versus Hamzat Shiraz. And this is an interesting fight because I did look up a little bit of film on both these guys. Carlos Adames is the WBC champion, and Hamzat Shiraz is this new guy up and coming. And when I looked at both their films, it seems like Shiraz is a lot more dangerous when he throws. He's a lot more of a dangerous fighter. Just look at the records, and Shiraz holds the more knockouts in the division, right? And it was one of these things where Carlos Adames isn't really known for like a big power puncher. He's not really known for being this good boxer or whatnot. And Shiraz is kind of growing that name. Me personally, I don't really know as much about these guys as I would like a Virgil Ortiz, Madrimov, Keyshawn Davis. But my prediction is I have Hamza Shiraz winning by stoppage. I have him winning, and then the later middle rounds around 6 to 9. I think he wins in one of those rounds. I think he wins by stoppage. So this is the next fight's the interesting fight, which was supposed to be Shakur and Floyd. So I had a whole list of things to talk about them, but now I have to talk about the new replacement, which is Josh Padley, 15-0, 4 knockouts. He had a good win against Mark Chamberlain, 16-1 guy with 12 knockouts. Good little fighter. Obviously, I wouldn't say they're like top 10 fighters in the world, obviously, but for Shakur, you just have to go out there and put on a good performance. You have to go on there. You have to put a performance where you really show that there's levels to this game. Win or lose, Shakur is going to get criticized. Win or lose, he's going to get criticized. And the reason I say that is because if you win, you beat a guy that stepped in late. You lose, you lost to a guy that stepped in late and is not on your level, right? So if you're Shakur, you either A, have to get him out of there, or B, shut him out 12-0, but do not run. Stay in the pocket, boom, boom, exchange. Do pull counters, do all this. Do something that's going to show you that there's levels to this game. If you just go out there and put on a regular Shakur performance where you barely outpoint him, you outpoint him 12-0 or whatnot, but every round there was not that many punches thrown, then you're going to get criticized and you're not going to be a legitimate champion. You're not going to be taken serious. Hardcore fans know this guy could be anybody on the planet. But if you go out there and put on a little performance like that, don't even think about it. Don't even call out Tanker, these guys, because these guys will just laugh at you, right? So that's all I got for that fight, to be honest. I had a lot written down. I thought Shakur was gonna was gonna outbox him and whatnot, but I mean, against a guy like Josh Padley, Shakur has to go out there and put work on him and really get him out of there. So the next fight, which is the co-main event, which might be one of the best heavyweight fights of all time, or we've seen in 5 years, Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. Daniel Dubois is on a mission as of late. Daniel Dubois has wins over Anthony Joshua, Philip Hijovic, I think that's pronounce his name. He had that arguable loss against Alexander Usyk, and Daniel Dubois is just fighting with so much confidence as of late. Joseph Parker as well has put on a good streak. Joseph Parker has beat Zhang. He has beaten Deontay Wilder. That was his last good big fight. So these are two big names that he's beaten. Two knockout artists. And a guy like Daniel Dubois, who's starting to stop people, is also going to be an interesting fight. Joseph Parker is very durable, does get dropped here and there, but I think Daniel Dubois has the power and the combinations to get a guy like Parker out of there. Me, realistically, I know I mentioned this could be a fight like one of the best in the past 5 years, but ultimately, I do think Daniel Dubois is just going to steamroll Parker. I think Dubois is just gonna. He's a monster, man. I don't see anybody beating him at heavyweight besides Usyk, and ultimately, I see him getting him out of there in the 8th round. I think he knocks him out, TKOs him, and Parker gets another fight. But I mean, Parker is a dog. That guy will make it competitive for a little bit. He's a lot smaller. He'll move more, but Daniel Dubois is perfect size for that weight class. He's not too big, not too small. He can move, he can punch, and it's perfect. That him and Usyk are the guys that got to throw it down, you know. So moving on to the main event. I'm sorry. We got Arthur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. This be a banger fight. The first fight was a very competitive fight. Arthur Beterbiev got the unanimous decision, or was it a majority? He won a decision. He became undisputed. So this one, I think the fight will be a bit different than the first. I think Bivol would be much more active offensively. Not necessarily throw as much punches with more intention behind him, but more peppering Beterbiev and setting him up. Beterbiev, I think, is going to walk him down the fight. I think he'll walk him down a lot more. But honestly, I think Bivol is just more well-rounded fighter. Arguably should have won the first one. I think he won the first one. But Bivol is going to learn from this fight, and I think he'll outpoint Beterbiev by a good amount. I think he beats him 116 to 112. I think he beats him 8 rounds to 6. 8 rounds to 4. And Bivol walks away with the title, with undisputed, and they set up for a trilogy, right? So another fight that got announced that this is not that part of that card. So we'll go over the picks I have. So if you guys want to put something on your parlay, I got you guys. My picks are going to be, I have Boatsy over Callum Smith. So Boatsy over Callum Smith. I have Agate Caballel over Zilin Ziyang. I have Virgil Ortiz over Israel Madramal. I have Hamzat Shiraz over Carlos Adames. I have Shakur Stevenson over Josh Padley. I have Daniel Dubois over Joseph Parker, and then I have Dimitri Bivol over Artur Beterbiev. So those are my picks for the card that's gonna happen on Saturday, and hopefully you guys sit on your parlays, you know. But we'll move on to a fight that got announced, which was Canelo and Skull. And I mean, honestly, this fight was just an undisputed fight, so they can make it undisputed for Crawford in September. William Skull really not going to offer anything to Canelo. I think Canelo is going to get him out of there. Canelo will beat him up. Canelo will knock him out. I think Canelo stops him in around the 8th round. I don't think he'll want to mess around too much with him. He won't give him a chance. Sorry, excuse me. I think he'll just better piece him up and really get him out of there. That's all I have. I mean, we'll get more into that as we get into the actual closer to the fight day, which is May 3rd, 2025. But we'll see. I honestly kind of get rid of him. So now we're gonna go into a little bit of the Cannonier Rodriguez fight, and this fight was all right. I mean, this was not that bad. It was a really good fight. I think Cannonier really got his name back in there. He defended his ranking in the UFC, defended the number 7, got back in the win column over a guy like Rodriguez. I picked Rodriguez to win, but realistically, this fight could have won anyway. I knew Cannonier could have knocked him out, or Rodriguez could have knocked him out. It's just both these guys have been stopped in their previous fights and all. But Cannonier is up in the division. He's ranked 7th. So when you look at it, the guys that are above him are Imavov, Hamza, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya. This is a 5. What was it? Carlo by Borralho, I think, is above him, and then there's one more. Robert Whitaker, right? So those are the guys that are above him. I think a fight that makes sense for Cannonier will either be fight Paulo Costa, who's ranked behind him, or you got to fight a guy like if you're gonna fight up, you gotta probably rematch Whitaker or rematch. You probably gotta rematch Adesanya. If anything, you gotta rematch one of these guys, you know, because he's fought all these guys. He's fought Adesanya, he's fought Whitaker. He's probably fight Sean Strickland. I mean, Sean Strickland had a terrible performance. Strickland would probably get a top level fight like a Whitaker fight or whatnot. But ultimately, I would like to see him in Costa. That's a firework fight. Get him paid a lot of money, you know. So that'll be pretty interesting. We'll see how that goes. So moving on from UFC and boxing, there was not that much UFC. Oh, I'm sorry, no, we're gonna talk about Song Yadong and Henry Cejudo in the UFC. This is a pretty good fight. It's gonna be fireworks, man. I know people want to downsize Cejudo, but Song Yadong's 27, and Cejudo, I believe, is 35. This is going to be either a passing of the torch or this is just going to be a lesson. So Cejudo is going to have to mix the martial art. He can't go in there and expect to strike with Sadong. He'll get knocked out. Sadong is a dangerous boxer. So Cejudo is an Olympian, a gold medalist in wrestling. He needs to use his wrestling, right? And this will pretty much dictate whether or not Song Yadong is made for the top of the division, because Song Yadong did not have a great performance against Peter Yan. Peter Yan kind of really pieced him up. And a guy like Cejudo, if he beats him, really sets him back, because Cejudo's lost to Merab, Aljamain Sterling, and for Cejudo, there's really no other fights to make except maybe a Corey Sandhagen or something like that. But if you lose to a guy like Cejudo, you pretty much are going to drop him more in the rankings. And he is really young at 27. Losing was a guy like Cejudo right now, especially Cejudo at his later age. Right now, Cejudo's name is still really good. I mean, it still carries something a lot behind it. And I'm not saying that to disrespect him or in any way. It's just he is 35 and he is getting older. And as you get older, your name diminishes. Your name, the weight it carries behind diminishes. His legacy is secured for the rest of his life, but ultimately the current value of it isn't as high as a guy as it would be, like, for example, a couple years ago when he was beating Demetrius Johnson. No. So ultimately, I'm going to predict that Song Yadong stops Henry Cejudo in the third round. I think he stops him in the third round. I think he catches him and puts him out, and ultimately stamps his name in the division. So moving on from the UFC, I wanted to get into a little bit of the NBA All-Star Game, and this game was pretty cool. I mean, no, not pretty cool. I'm sorry. This was trash. This game was buns. This game was atrocious. I don't like these games. I honestly didn't really watch it as much. I just kind of like breezed through a little bit. What I did like was the dunk contest, and that's really much what I want to talk about right now. The dunk contest, because I mean that attracted a lot of eyes. You got a guy like Mac McClung, who's legit three-time dunk contest, all consecutive, back to back to back. You got to give this guy a chance in the NBA. I think he'll bring some eyes. I think and all, but the one thing I did notice is the NBA All-Star Game started getting laughed upon and really frowned upon. Really, just made it looked like a mockery. It made the NBA look like a mockery, right? You get guys who don't really try or whatnot, and the one thing I do say is the dunk contest did benefit a lot this year. The dunk contest did bring eyes, and you saw a lot of guys like John Morant and Giannis say they want to participate, as well as Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon said he wouldn't mind participating again. So these are things that are happening, and this is what you want. This is what you want. You want guys to go out there and compete and get this right. Speaking about the All-Star Game, that was an embarrassment for the NBA. They really need to start taking a look at themselves and really discuss what they want to be viewed as, what to be looked at, you know? And I have a solution on how to really bring back the NBA All-Star Game. And it sucks. I mean, there's one main solution to this, and this players got to try. If they're not going to try, then you're not going to have a good game. Now, this is my opinion, and this opinion could be hated upon. Just letting you know. The one way, if I was the commissioner, and if I was like, all right, we have to make the All-Star Game get some views again. We have to make the All-Star Game get better and better. What can we do? What can we do? Let me just pull up some of the archives. Okay. So what would I do? If I were the commissioner, I would make the All-Star Game winner of the East versus the West. So that would be the structure. East versus West. Winner, home field advantage in the finals. This is why I would do it. And I could see the downside of it, because what's the point of getting the first seed if you could lose it at the whatnot and the All-Star Game? But MLB used to do this, and they played hard, man. I'm telling you right now, MLB, I love the All-Star Game for the MLB. I'm a baseball guy. I know that could be biased towards that, but MLB is best All-Star game in sports right now. I think in terms of actual All-Star game, like hockey right now is legit with the four nations face off, but the All-Star game is baseball. Pro Bowl doesn't touch any of these, and then baseball is right up number one. And because you get players to try, obviously there's a less chance of injury. There's a lesser chance of injury in baseball and all that. I get that, but still, go out there and try. People are paying hard-earned money for this. I get it. People are rich and they could think whatever they're not. No, go out there and put on a show. You're an all-star. You earned it. Go out and put on a show. That's the one solution I would have is East versus West. Winner gets home field advantage in the NBA Finals. Don't kill me. Don't kill me on that one. Don't kill me. So speaking of MLB All-Star Game, we're gonna go into some MLB news for a little bit. We're gonna brief by a little bit, and then we'll answer some questions. It'll be a short little podcast today, but we got it through. Don't worry about it. Let me just silence my phone real quick. Okay, cool. All right. So the big news was Bregman signed 3 years, $120 million for the Red Sox, right? For the Boston Red Sox. So this adds not only defense, but this adds a great offensive stick for them. The way it gets tricky is you have Rafael Devers. If this was last year or whatnot, or a couple years ago, you could just move him over to free base. Devers, speaking of. But you can't now because who do you have? You have Tristan Casas, who's legit good baseball player at first base. So now you have to ask, do you move Devers to the DH and leave Bregman at third, or what? Or I heard things about putting Bregman at second. I honestly would put Bregman at short maybe and move Story to second, just because Story did play second base for the Red Sox a couple years ago, and Bregman played shortstop during his times at LSU. I would personally put him at short, but if they want Bregman at third so they could keep the defensive infield, the defensive infield at a higher level, the defense and the infield at a higher level, I would recommend putting him at third base and just DHing Devers. But Devers came out saying that he doesn't want to do that. That Devers doesn't want to DH, that he won't DH, so he's a third baseman, that's his position or whatnot. You had guys like Tristan Casas who came out and said he's the best third baseman in the world. Sure, arguably, if you didn't count the defense, but the defense, he's probably the worst defensive third baseman in the world. He leads the MLB in errors almost every year that he's played at third base. That's not the best third baseman in baseball. No, there's probably 5 guys that would take over him. I would take Machado because his defense is off the charts. I would take Jose Ramirez. Who else would I take? I think I wouldn't take Arenado anymore. I think Devers' stick makes up for that. Mark Vientos. I know that's the name. People are going to be like, Mark Vientos from the Mets is legit. That guy's going to break out this year, calling it. Put your parlays on Vientos. Vientos is going to break out. I think Vientos is a really good defensive third baseman. Big arm, big kid, right? Big guy. That's 3. That's tough. Eugenio Suarez, no, his offense really lacks that year. It really lacked last year. That's 3 that I could think of off the top of my head. Is there more that I could find? I'm sure, but it's just his defense is not where it needs to be. Rafael Devers really needs to really develop develop more in the third baseman defensive category. He's just not. He's just too. His defense is just slack. It just lacks. It just holds his potential back. And cool. I mean, he never been challenged because of his stick, but I mean, when you got a guy like Bregman who can hit, and all of a sudden he can play good defense, that's what you want to get. That's what you want to bring on your ball club, right? That's exactly what's going to happen, right? And then another thing was Cora. Cora was is the manager for the Red Sox. He ended up said, I don't know if, in quotes, I don't know if Devers thinks that a promise from the old GM is going to stand, but it won't. End quote. I could be wrong a little bit on his words, but that's exactly, he basically said that don't take a guy that got fired last year or whatnot. Don't think that his rules are still going to apply. And a guy like Cora, the manager can have the authority over, hey, Bregman, you're going to third base. And then another interesting thing about contracts is Rendon is out long-term for a hip injury. This is probably the worst contract of all time. 7 years, $245 million. I don't know how many games he's played, but I don't think he's played worth that much money at all, right? Not even close. Rendon, this goes for, his career became a laughing stock, a laughing, it's almost laughable. And the way his career really turned out. I mean, he was a stud with the Nationals, and then he really went to the Angels and then just disappeared. If from the Angels, I mean, just eat the contract now at this point. Get him out of there. Don't resign. Don't even think about resigning the guy. Just get him out of there, especially a guy who's been causing issues with fans, not wanting to be there or whatnot. And then moving more news on the Angels is Trout moving to right field. I mean, he really embraced the role as a DH because his body consistently is getting injured. It's not holding up for the whole season. And that's Trout being a captain, I'm saying, I'm going to swallow my pride and move over to right field, and I'm going to just play what I could play and get as many games as possible, right? And that's what's smart for Trout in his career. Trout still holds value. It's just he gets hurt too much. And if you're the Angels, there is good news. Good news coming. Vlad could not agree to a deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. Will not negotiate further into the season. He will not open negotiations. According to him, he had a number, brought the number down a little bit just to stay with them. They couldn't come close to agreeing to that number. I think Vlad's going to leave next year. I don't think he stays. And part of me thinks Vlad will go to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I think he'll become an Angel. I think he'll take the footsteps of his dad, and I think he'll really turn that franchise around, really make it better. As a guy who's 25 years old, going to get a fat contract, 26, probably going to get paid around 300, 400 million. Guy with a good defensive glove at first base, and you could probably put him at third base, and with the absolute above average hitting. I mean, this guy has exceptional hitting. His hitting is probably pure hitters. If I were to just take all these guys and put them as pure hitters, top 10 hitter, top 5 hitter, arguably. And I know I'm saying that, but just hitting alone, I would take Ohtani above him, Judge above him, Bobby Witt above Bobby Witt. Soto, I would probably take above him. And you could argue Bobby Witt. I think those are the 4 that I would take above him. As of right now, just pure hitters. I mean, a guy who Vlad hit, I think, 323 last year. Let's look it up a little bit. Vlad hit 323 with like 40 or 30 something bombs. I mean, this guy is $400 million ready, right? If you're the Blue Jays, you really fumbled the ball if he leaves. If he jams on you guys really fumbled the ball just because this guy's 25 years old, like I mentioned. Star power and just great at baseball. He's a good hitter. One of the best hitters in baseball. So if you let him walk, you just kind of sat down and really took it. Toronto, last year he hit 323, 30 bombs, 103 RBIs, 199 hits. For any people that don't know, 200 hits is legit. 200 hits is you're good. You're a good hitter. If you hit 200 hits, that's really good hitting. 30 bombs, 100 RBIs is really good as well. I was actually hitting 323. That's phenomenal. But if a guy can hit 200 hits, that's how you know they're a great hitter. That's how you know they're constantly getting on base, constantly scoring runs. That's what a guy, and he's a number 3 hitter. All right, so perfect guy. So now I want to go to Instagram a little bit and answer some questions and really answer some of what you guys had to say and what you guys' thoughts and opinions are on different sports. So we'll go with Philip Chavez. Should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame realistically, even though he's on steroids? Yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And he's one of the few guys I think that should be in the Hall of Fame because when you look at the steroid usage, he used steroids around when he joined the Giants, would you say, right? If I'm not mistaken, I don't have all the numbers right on me right now. He won 4 or 3 MVPs before that. I mean, he was stealing like 40 bases. So this guy was already on trajectory to be a Hall of Famer. Everybody was juicing. He juiced himself. But he was on pace to be a Hall of Famer. He's arguably up there as it is. Like, he's legit. Barry Bonds is going to be a Hall of Famer. Arguably the best baseball player of all time. You have to put him in the Hall of Fame. What is the best sport in the world? It's baseball. No doubt about it, baseball. I mean, baseball is the longest sport, so you watch it the most. You watch almost every day. Which other sport you have? That's 162 games almost every day. You have it's a team sport. You can't win without that, but you also have the option of one player dominating one game, which is the pitcher. That's what makes it so good. Is it's a team game, but your pitcher can also dominate and keep you in the game or win you the game. And then playoff baseball, nothing comes near that. I mean, 7-game series. Come on, new pitcher every day. It's matchups. Baseball is the best. It's the best sport for matchups because you can match up with anybody, and you could have a big flaw in one sport, in one aspect of the sport, but you could also have a really big pro in another aspect of the sport. Moving on to Josh. That was from Bernie. From Josh. Best fantasy picks for upcoming season. Ooh, that's tough. So one's going to be Ohtani. I think that would be my number one, is just because Ohtani is going to pitch and hit, so that adds the double the value. I mean, pitching gets a lot of points. Number 2 for me would be Bobby Witt. Simply because he had 211 hits last year. It doesn't really strike out. I mean, it's good amount for homers, steals a lot of bases, and all, and of course a couple RBIs. Third would be Juan Soto. Just because, I mean, you can't really get that much for your defense, and Juan Soto's going to be a good hitter. Doesn't strike out a lot at all. K percentage is low. walks a lot. That gets you a good amount of points. He's going to hit over 30 homers for sure. And it's going to have over 100, 300 RBI. I mean, 300 average. I think his RBIs will be up there in like close to the hundreds or a little bit above 100. And then the last one I would say is Vladimir Guerrero, just because Vlad's going to be on his contract year and Vlad's going to absolutely ball out with guys like Anthony Santander protecting him in the lineup, and Bo Bichette, obviously. Those are my 4 picks for fantasy that I would honestly take. Pitchers, I would probably take. Who's the number 1 pitcher that I would take? I feel like Tyler Schoolball. I feel like Schoolball would be the number 1, or Paul Skeens, because Paul Skeens does get a lot of whiffs and Ks. So I would take Paul Skeens. If Bivol loses the rematch, what's the new move for him? That was for my cousin Omar. Shout out to you. This is a tough one. I mean, when you look at it, Bivol losing, it takes a step back. It's a big step back for him. I mean, it's not really, because he is still Bivol, but I think he'll possibly fight either a Canelo rematch, or he'll fight like a Morel or another top contender at light heavyweight, for example, the winner of Botsy, and then propel him to the title, because Benavidez will leap him, I think, and Benavidez will fight a better Biv. Or possibly Bivol fights better Biv and then winner, or Bivol fights Benavidez. But I think Bivol loses. I think he'll either fight a Morel, Benavidez, or he'll fight a guy like Botsy. And those or Canelo rematch. Those are the 3 that I would take, 4 that I'll take for his. If he loses the rematch, that's what's next for him. Should players in MLB get punished for sports betting? That goes for my boy Kevin. Shout out to you. Yeah, I think they should. I mean, if you're betting, if you bet the under, I mean, come on, like, you're basically selling the game. You're selling your team. You're selling your fans. Fans are going out there for you to play at your hardest, and you're not going to play at your hardest. Like, that's a dumb decision to make if a player decides to bet on his own team, or possibly, and then people just rigging bets. Hey, I put this much money down, go 0 for 3. It's weird like that. What do you think about the 3 fights in 9 minutes from USA versus Canada hockey from Sam? I love that one. I love it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting into hockey. I love that shit. You know what I'm saying? On tomorrow, which is Thursday, they're gonna go at it. USA and Canada hockey. The US of A, the red, white, and blue, the Star Spangled Banner, repping. They gonna kick some Canadian ass tomorrow. That's for sure. That's what I have. I got USA, and I love that. I love that, man. And there's history behind it, because their dad actually got in a fight against Canada in 1998, I believe. So both the brothers got in a fight within the first 2 seconds, and then the last one came out, and later in the I think it was 9 seconds, right? I think they got a couple pushes in and then went at it again. I love that. I love hockey, man. I love the new 4 nations concept, which hockey incorporated this year. So that's my thing on that. I love it. I love it, man. To answer your question, I love it. Historical, right there. From Noah Madrigal. Trout moving to right field. I think it's a good pick, a good move, for good decision from his career and his health. I think he'll really benefit from there. His stats will stay up. I mean, the main thing is his stats will be his stats. The main thing is just his health, if he can stay on the field. And that's the priority for the Angels and for Trout, is to keep him on the field. The question is, can Trout sustain health, sustain the consistent play? And I think he will. I think he'll get benched a lot, to be honest. When you look at it, he'll have a couple off days, in my opinion. I really believe that. But ultimately, I think it's a good move. I don't see a bad move in that. I don't see a bad move. Try moving to right field or not. Opens up positions and really shows his character and his leadership type of play. So those are all the questions I have from Instagram, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's a short podcast, but we're gonna talk a lot about in the next weekend. We're gonna break down the whole card. It'll be cool, Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 6 on the Freddy's Ready podcast. Hope you guys have a great one. Have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Watch the fights. Watch the hockey game tomorrow or Thursday. Whenever you guys are watching this, probably Thursday, but watch it. Let me know what you guys think about it. Follow me on socials. My Instagram is at frxddy.sanxhezz. And then TikTok and TikTok and Instagram for my podcast is Freddy is Ready Podcast. My YouTube is Freddyisreadysports or Freddy's Ready Podcast. You can look it up and you'll find me there. Thank you guys for that. I hope you guys keep showing love, keep doing all that, keep staying here. Appreciate you guys for the journey. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.